Hi everyone, it's Elisa from Moonstruck Vintage. Welcome back. This is part 2 of listing items online. Specifically, today I'm going to show you how I do the second step to my process of actually building a listing on Etsy and then sharing it also on eBay. So if you, just as a reminder, and for those who may not have watched the first video, I showed you how I actually photographed items and then measured them, excuse me, in a batch process, so that when I sit down to do my listings, I have all photos and all measurements. And prior to that, things were cleaned and pressed and steamed and prepared for photography. So today we're going to sit down. I'm going to actually share my screen and show you how I list an item as quickly as possible on Etsy, and then how I take that same information and I'm able to share it through all the way through to eBay as well. So stay tuned. So before we get started with the listing, I'm going to give you a little shot of my setup. Yeah, I am here set up in my dining room. I do have an office. It's in the basement, but as we've discussed, I prefer to be up here with the plants and the windows, etc. So I obviously have my MacBook Pro, my laptop here. I have my item that I'm listing just so I have it close by when I'm describing it. And again, double checking for any flaws or issues. And then I have my list of measurements that we took when we were taking some photographs. And now we're ready to get started. So I'm in my Etsy account right now. And just as a reminder, we're going to be listing this orange-red Hawaiian men's shirt. So what I've done in Etsy is I have searched for any previous Hawaiian pieces that I've owned that I've sold in the past. These items have been sold, but what I'm going to do today is I'm going to try to reuse an old listing to create the new listing. So I'm looking at this one particular listing for Hawaiian men's shirt that I sold quite a while back. But since it has a lot of the basic information that I'm going to need for my new listing, I'm going to make a copy of this listing and I'm going to edit it. You'll notice it says copy of in the top portion. That's how you know you have a copy in front of you. I'm going to edit this information and reuse it like a template for my new listing. So again, we're going to be listing this particular shirt. So I just remind myself of what it looks like since I have a huge list of items to list. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to edit the title. I'm going to add the fact that it's a men's shirt to be more specific. And I'm going to change a little information about what the print is on the shirt. Just remove anything that doesn't pertain, keep anything that's good, and then modify as needed. I remove the size because I'm not sure what the size is right now of this particular item, so I'm going to add that a little bit later. Adding another piece of information, trying to get within the first 5 or 6 words what the item is very specifically, so that when people are searching they might get a truncated title, and this way they'll get the most important information. For example, it's a vintage Hawaiian shirt. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually take a quick look at the size chart that I use. I use one general sizing chart. Based on my measurements that I took earlier, I'm going to determine that this particular shirt is a size medium. Now I do this to help people when they're shopping online so they can get a sense for what the modern day size is. The next thing I'm doing is I'm deleting all the old photos. Obviously, they don't pertain to the new listing. I am going to go ahead and add. As you can see, I've been busy taking photos. I'm going to go ahead and select all the pertinent photos that we took earlier. They've all been edited, brightened up a little bit. Try to get a lot of specifics in the pictures. Okay, and they're loading, as you can see. Okay, as they're loading, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to edit the body of the listing. I basically take the title that I made above and re-enter it. And then I have this template that I use. So the first thing I discuss, and if you're shopping online, you want to know, for vintage, you want to know the condition of the item. So I'm adding some information about the condition. And then the next section below is our pertinent details about the item. So for instance, the material, and also the brand or the maker. So I happen to have a label on this shirt, and I know it's 100% cotton. And I also know the maker because that's also in the label. Not always available with vintage, but in this case it is. And now I'm going to start editing the details. And I sort of follow the previous listing to kind of remind me of some things that might be important. For instance, the color, describing the color. You might see me kind of fussing around a little bit with this, trying to make it succinct but informational. You can see that the photos are starting to load now. Okay, I'm going to continue to edit these items. And a lot of times this information might seem obvious if you have pictures, but this helps in the search algorithm. So sometimes if somebody's looking for something very, very specific, the details in the listing body, the description are useful for that reason. And I'm also mentioning it's short sleeve. So I try to keep it just bulleted, simple phrases, so people don't have to read through lots of paragraphs. Just straightforward. Again, I'm updating. You'll notice I say there it fits like a modern size M or medium. And then I'm adding the measurements that we recorded while taking our pictures. So that's all right there at hand on my clipboard. So that's pretty much it. So I just try to keep it really general, very specific, but simple in terms of how the information is displayed. And because I already had that previous listing I'm just editing, it makes the process much faster. I don't have to duplicate all the details of the different segments of the description. Now I'm rearranging the photos. I sort of have a order that I like to put them in, front, back, and then any details. And usually if I have a label or any flaws, I'll put them as the last photo. Scrolling down, I'm going to come to the price. I am changing the price on this compared to the last listing. I'm adding that there is one of this item. If I click on the physical item button, it gives me an opportunity to set the era or the decade for the particular item. This one was already set to the 1980s, which I believe that is roughly the time period that shirt was from. Then we get into some attributes of the item, for instance, the primary color, the secondary color. And then I'm going to modify the size again. I know it seems a little redundant in some cases. Etsy can be a little picky. They like all their fields filled in. They like to clearly represent any information that's going to be useful to the buyer. And I do too, because I don't want to be barraged with a lot of questions. I want to give the information right up front to the buyer so I don't have to interact overly with them if I don't need to. Here, again, another important item that Etsy likes is tags for the items. Again, this helps with search and the search algorithm. Um, you'll notice that the tags came over from the previous listing, and I am keeping some of those because they are generic enough, like for instance, Hawaiian shirt, short sleeve, etc. So that allows me to save a little time, and then I just remove the ones that don't apply, any references to colors or things that aren't correct for this particular shirt. And now I'm just adding some things that are pertinent to our red shirt. I try to go ahead and use all 13 tags possible. Updating the materials, we know it's cotton. I'm adjusting the weight and also double checking the size of the package. I have it in a category for vintage menswear. And now I'm going to go ahead and publish the listing. Now to see my listing, I have to go to the active listings. We were on the sold. Now after I've completed the Etsy listing, I flip over to my other tool that I use called Flyp, F-L-Y-P. It's an inexpensive cross-listing tool that I use to import my Etsy listing into this Flyp tool, and it allows me to cross-list it to eBay. Now you can also cross-list it to other applications as well, and you can see on the left there's Mercari, there's a variety of things, but it imports the entire listing, the photographs and all the other details, and it makes it really simple to then cross-list to another selling platform. I happen to only use Etsy and eBay. So you can see it shows listed for Etsy, and now I'm going to click on eBay, and I'm going to make some minor adjustments to the listing. There's some additional information that eBay requires. You can see I can add some additional characters to the title, which is very useful in searching in eBay. So I'm going to add the decade, 1980s, just to add a little bit of additional information. I'm going to add the brand. Usually for vintage, I just put unknown source, and then I add the primary color. It doesn't, bring it across exactly as it needs to be, but it makes it a whole lot simpler. I'm going to pick a category, vintage men's, and it kind of brings up some options. And I'm going to click here on the men's vintage clothing and then look for casual shirts. Select that. Again, that's unique to eBay. I'm going to select that it's used in good condition. Rarely do I say excellent condition. I think good is usually standard for vintage unless it is something extremely special. Adding some shipping information. It's calculated shipping is what I use, and I take about 3 days, give myself 3 days to get it out. Usually it's much faster. There's a 30-day return policy. Again, these are all unique to eBay versus Etsy, but you'll see a lot of the information is there. I'm selecting some additional slides, allowing offers and such. And now I'm just listing to eBay. And you'll see that there's a link to view the listing on eBay. So I'm going to hop over there, and there's my listing on eBay. Pretty doggone quick, I must say.
I do go into the listing on eBay and make a couple minor adjustments. You'll notice they really like us to fill out any unique details, and they will suggest a bunch, and usually they're pretty close. Like you can see, there's some suggestions here. I'm going to go ahead and select all that apply just quickly and not spend a lot of time on it, but add some additional information. And then I'm going to make sure and fill in the condition information that's in the description. They have a specific condition box up there that the listing doesn't carry over. So I'm just going to add that in there just to be safe. I know it's a little bit of a duplication of effort, but whatever works. And I'm going to go down and I'm going to revise it, save it, and now my listing is complete on eBay. Quickly take you back to Flyp, where you can see now this particular listing is both on eBay and Etsy, and I can do a variety of things from this platform. For instance, if I want to mark the item as sold on one of the platforms, it will automatically delist it from the other platform.
So there you have it. That's my second step in the process of actually listing items on Etsy and then all the way through to eBay as well. Um, yeah, I'm always trying to improve. It does take a little bit of work and time to actually list these items. I feel like I'm getting better at it over time, and I've been doing it for several years, but there's always tips and tricks on how you can shorten that time up so you can do it even quicker. You want to make sure it's worth your while because it's not always worth it. When you consider it takes approximately a half an hour per item to actually get it listed. By the time you prepare it, clean it, get it ready, photograph, measure, list on Etsy, list on eBay, and then manage it from there. It takes a little time. I find it worth it because these items can just sit and kind of be out there waiting for the right buyer to come along. So it's always a nice surprise when something gets purchased. Um, so the time and investment is worth it, but you want to make sure you're not spending too much time on items that aren't worthy of it. So some things just, the value is just not there, what you can earn by actually investing your time. So always keep that in mind. Is it worth a half an hour of my time to list this item? Will I make enough money back? And then sometimes I do it anyway, just because I want to find a home for that item. And this is one way you can do it, especially when you have something specialized or unique in that you're looking for a broader audience for that item. So, well, that's it for today. I will in the future talk to you about how I then now store these items or what I do with them now that I've listed them online. So in some cases, these items go right back to the brick and mortar store. And in some cases, they get stored here in my basement office that you haven't seen that I talk about all the time. But I have a little area where I keep some inventory stored away that is listed online. So anyway, we'll get to that in the future. But for right now, that's it for today. Thanks so much. Thanks for joining. Please like and subscribe if you're feeling motivated. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.